Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and KWBY, and again on Saturday morning at 9 on KATX and KWBY as Angela Robinson joins Terry Slavens to share important financial information to help you live life on purpose. Insurance, investments, estate and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
And a very pleasant good Monday morning, everyone. Welcome into Life Planning 101. We have a special surprise this morning. No Angela Robinson, but we have the Kennedy boys in here today. We got Jim and Aaron in here to do Life Planning 101. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Always glad to have you all in to talk life planning. It's not just a money show, it's a life planning show. And what do y'all have on tap for us today?
Great to be here. I hate to have Angela miss in, but she's out on the road today, so gladly stepping in and going to see if we can fill those shoes of hers.
I don't think that will ever happen.
No. Well, haven't been on in a while, and I thought we'd give a slight market update and give everybody an idea of what's going on. Still in a lot of crazy times right now, and a lot of confusion of what to do. 2020 has been a remarkable year for the market. We haven't seen this kind of price action since 1999, and that was another remarkable time. And really what happened to both of those times is, we saw unfathomable valuations for growth stocks, and value stocks were in the dumpster. And we have not seen that kind of discrepancy in 20 years. But here we are again today, where, the NASDAQ, which is basically 6 stocks, it's up 27% year to date, and value stocks are down 11. So how is that? We're still performing in the same exact economy. There's a lot of difference in the time frames. Back in 99, a lot of those companies that did so well did not have earnings, and were pretty much shells of companies, and they were just an idea of the future. And that idea paid out, but it took a long time to do it. Today we have companies that are actually earning, like Microsoft, Apple. These companies are just knocking it through the roof, but there's still lots of speculation out there. Look at Zoom. That stock has gone through the roof. Who couldn't go in and replace Zoom tomorrow? There's no moat. DocuSign is the same way. We use DocuSign. It's a great company. But I'm also closing on a house, and they're using a different company that's not DocuSign that does the same thing. So should it be as valuable as it is right now? Look at Tesla. Tesla's bigger than every car maker in the U.S., every car maker in Europe, and every car maker in Japan. Think about that.
Wow.
But think about this. It's bigger than all of them combined.
Wow.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Apple just did a stock split, and Tesla just did a stock split, and their stocks increased by 50%.
Unbelievable.
If everybody knows what a stock split is, think of a pizza. And I cut the pizza in 4 pieces, and let's say the pizza's worth $4 or $10, so that's $2.50 a piece. Now I cut it into 10 pieces, right? So that should be $1 a piece. But no, because we cut it in 10 pieces, the pizza's now worth $40. That's a stock split, and that's what happened to Apple and Tesla. It doesn't make any sense.
I'll buy some pizzas.
Yes. So
that's 101 simplicity right there.
That's right.
I like that.
I do too.
But we're in a strange time. We're right in the middle of Corona. Nobody knows what to do. We know where our general economy's going, and it is getting away from big business or big buildings. Everybody will be working, not everybody, but we will be working more from home. Technology is going to drive us there, but should these companies in these stages where we're at today be worth as much as they are? And that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Very, very scary. Looking at just strictly a price standpoint, if you look at the NASDAQ forever earning every dollar of earning that's in a NASDAQ, you're paying $34 right now. On average in the market, you pay $15. So it is more than double than what the stock average is. And there's lots of reasons for that. You know, we're printing lots of money right now. Interest rates are near zero. I was reading this morning that it's very much like 1999, except now you can trade stocks while you're in the bathroom. You know, Robinhood, this is a new phenomenon where you don't even have to know what you're doing to be buying and selling stocks. There's a company called Hertz, you know, the company that rents out cars, in bankruptcy. The equity earnings will be wiped out. If you're a stock owner, you'll be wiped out to zero. We see it jump up 100% a day. People are buying and selling that thing like crazy.
Well, it's, you know, since the coronavirus has come in, a lot of people are locked into their homes and they're not out. They're not going to Vegas.
Right.
And the stock market's become the new Vegas.
The new gambling side.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah, it's crazy. But we need to take our first break, and when we come back, we'll have a lot more on Life Planning 101 right here on KATX KWBY. And welcome back. Segment 2, Life Planning 101 right here on KATX KWBY. We have Jim and Aaron Kennedy with us again, and Aaron's giving us some market updates. Remarkable things going on, Aaron.
Very remarkable. I got a couple of tips, and then turn it over, and we're going to start talking about some planning issues. But, you know, if you've been very heavily invested in technology, you've had a fantastic year. You've had a great run for a decade now. It'll probably be a wise time to rebalance and kind of take some of those gains and put it into some things that haven't done as well this year. Because very, very, very few times in history do you get that kind of discrepancy of being a major part of your portfolio up 30% and then a major part of it down. So it'd be a very good time to rebalance. And when you're rebalancing, you know, there's a spectrum of things that you can invest in, from the deepest of value, think Carnival or, you know, some of the travel stocks, to your core S&P, all the way up to the very speculative growth, you know. And I don't know if I would go all the way down to Carnival at this time, but you might go just a little bit more value than S&P, because there's still some great companies out there that you can get dirt cheap, and companies that are going to be around forever. So you might as well be able to pick those up today at just wonderful prices.
Yeah, and as soon as they get a handle on this coronavirus, you know, people are going to travel, and, you know, the planes will be back in the air and the ships will be back at sea, and
yes,
that's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. So
I was reading, there was a great quote I read. Bubbles are very easy to spot, but you just cannot tell the duration of how long they're going to go on.
Right.
They'll prove you wrong a long time. You'll grow broke before you finally get to say, "I told you so." You know?
Yeah, and I think too, there's a lot more people investing in the market today than there was in 1999. And if people were investing in 99, they'll remember this, because everyone was running toward tech 98, 99, and the tech stocks dropped up to 90%. You know, and that was a huge drop. So you don't see your portfolio go down by that much, when as the value stocks, they went down, but they were down basically around 22% at the beginning, then went down to 11%, then I think a 9% the next year. But at least they didn't drop 90%, you know.
Right.
And so it's just a good idea to rebalance your portfolio. And, you know, everybody thinks that this is going to go on forever, especially your newer investors or people that don't have the experience in the market.
Lots of changes.
Lots of changes.
Sure are. So I think what Aaron's kind of saying in one way is, you know, watch where your money goes, watch where you spend. And so one of the things that we thought we'd talk about today, and we talk about this a lot in our office, is cash flow. You know, the number one thing that we see that creates problems with planning for people that want to plan for their future, and whether it's future or current planning, is cash flow. You have to know where your money goes. And just a short story, the Vanderbilts were the wealthiest family back in the 1800s, and they built the railroads, passed on more wealth to their children than anyone else. And a bulk of that going to his son, which he actually doubled his wealth. But, the planning from that point forward, they built Vanderbilt University, we all know about, and they continue to have problems, whether it's interfamily or spending. And just reading the history of the Vanderbilts, the ones that received a lot of that wealth, they always wanted the biggest, the best, and they wanted to spend that money. And, we see this quite often. It's just something as simple as, I want a bigger screen TV.
Right.
I want a nicer car. I want the one that's got all the bells and whistles on it, when the other one is the same vehicle. It just may not have quite as many bells and whistles. But once you spend that dollar, it doesn't come back to you, and it's gone forever. And the Vanderbilts had a reunion at the Vanderbilt University, and I think there's over 120 descendants of the Vanderbilt. There was not one millionaire at that reunion.
Wow.
So
That says a lot.
That tells you tremendously how undisciplined, we are as a whole, and if we can just get control on what we spend and sit down and look at how many dollars come in and how many dollars go out. It doesn't matter whether you're starting out in life at a very low wage, low income, or you've got lots of money. We've seen people with lots of money spend down their wealth, and before long they don't have it. It's gone, and it's just because of uncontrolled spending. We look at our habits. We want something bigger, better, more, eat out more. We do everything we do, we seem to want to spend more and more money, and it may be spending on the spouses, it may be spending on the kids, the grandkids, it may be spending just on yourself, but we just don't think that it's ever going to end. But it does. It does end, and I think that's you can have all the planning software. I know Aaron and I talk about this a lot, and Angela. We see all this free stuff that they offer on the internet. Do your own plan, do this, and go through the process. But it doesn't change your spending habits. In most cases, you want to make sure that you look at what dollars you have to spend, what you need to spend, and you need to be saving money as well as spending money. And that's one thing we forget to do sometimes. And you would never know when that day is going to come that you have to retire or you need to retire. And we see this all the time where people get hurt, they get some kind of tragic thing happen in their life. Could be cancer, it could be a loss of a spouse, it could be this, you take right now with the coronavirus. We've seen a huge change in revenue with restaurants. So anyone that's in the restaurant business, where do they've always put their money? They put it back in the restaurant. And now what's the value of that restaurant?
Not near what it was.
Not what it was
a year ago.
Yeah. And can they survive this downturn? Can they survive? Have they got enough money, enough assets to survive this?
A lot of them, the answer is no.
Yeah.
I've met with a lot of people over the last several months, and what we're talking about now is one of the main talking points that we always have is about cash flow. And I haven't talked to a single person that says I'm struggling right now with my cash flow. Everybody says, hey, my bank account's growing like crazy. I'm not spending any money whatsoever. I'm not even going out to eat. And that, just what we're talking about there, going out to eat, that is such a large expenditure for people every single week. And since that's gone.
No movies?
No movie
nights?
Nothing. Yeah.
That's right.
That saves you $50 every time.
Right.
So.
And these are the little things that just start to stack up over time.
Well,
That's what happened to the Vanderbilt.
That's right. Well, you think about your car, how much less you drive.
Yeah.
You're not going to Fort Worth on the weekends or, the big city or spending time out. And those meals, you go to eat a meal out, you look, and if you're not careful, your drinks are more than your meal.
Yeah, my kids grew up not liking me because I would not allow them to buy drinks at restaurants because $2 and there's 6 of us, that's $12.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, we have a great story with that. we always drink water when we went out to eat because, for that very same reason. But, those disciplines they'll carry with you through your whole life, but you have to create those disciplines. And it's just something that we have to live with because, there's nothing worse than looking at your bank account and wondering why it keeps going down every month, and you've got to sit down and study it and decide, I can do without this, and especially the older generation. We all remember what we didn't get or didn't have, or and we never missed it. It seems like the younger generation, they never lacked for having it, but all they had to do was ask for it. But there's a cost with that, and that's what we have to understand. That what is it going to cost me to keep spending this money? Yeah. And we always talk when speaking of businesses, just a second, but we always said cash is king. So you really can't save too much money. Right. And I think people forget that.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, let's take our final break and come back and wrap things up right here on Life Planning 101 on KATX KWBY. Final segment, Life Planning 101 right here on KATX KWBY. Jim, I think I heard you talk something about tax planning. Maybe.
Oh, yeah. Don't we love taxes? I mean, it's something that we always look forward to paying for. Evil. Yes. Yeah, I thought we'd wrap up this show with talking a little bit about some things that could be done for year-end tax planning. Here we are in the last quarter, so people are usually pretty busy, and as just some ideas that if you haven't thought about these, or if you haven't talked to your CPA or your financial advisor, planner, did your own study and whatever you might want to think about. But one thing, 2020 could be a good year to do some Roth conversions. Our tax rates are low right now, but 2025 they go back up. And of course, if we have a change in leadership, it could go up quicker than that. So if your income is such that your taxes at a lower amount, you might want to consider converting to Roth, because Roth gives you your IRA to Roth, which gives you tax-free income. And what's wrong with tax-free income? The question is, do you think taxes are going to go up or go down or stay the same?
No, they're going to go up.
Yeah, so if we could pay our taxes today with the rates that we are living with today, would that be better for our long-term planning? And there's a good chance that could happen. So especially if you maybe your income's been cut, but you have the capability to convert some of that money to Roth, that would be a good thing to do.
A lot of people are worried about what's going to happen in November, and so if the market does go down, whatever happens, what a great way to take advantage of that is to take that money that's dropped in value and scoot it over to a Roth.
Sure.
And would that not be awesome if you got 50% off or even 30% off? I mean, that could be a hugely positive thing. So everything that can happen that's a negative can equally be a positive. It just depends on how you look at it and what you want to do with it. That's right.
Right.
Turn your negatives into a positive.
Yeah. So that, taking advantage of that market at the same time taking advantage of this lower tax rate, those two things as a combination.
Yeah, hand in hand might be the last time.
It could be the last time. In addition to that, just an IRA distribution. You don't want to convert it, but you can take money out of your IRA. And a couple of things to look at there is if, maybe not before you get in that next tax bracket, take it out of the current tax bracket up to that level. The other thing is that people that are retired, they're paying taxes on their Social Security. So if you can pull out that IRA without increase your tax on your Social Security, that would be a way to manage that distribution. And the fact too is, again, you just ask yourself that same question: would it be better to take it out now, pay a little higher tax, or do I think it's going to go up even higher than that next tax bracket, right, which very well could happen. So that's number two. Number three would be a lot of people are very charitable and they want to gift. Well, gifting right now, we've lost some of our deductions, but if you're over 70 and a half, you can give through a qualified charitable distribution. So if you give to your church, for example, you can take money straight out of your IRA account and gift that to the church and gift it to a non-charitable organization, and it doesn't show up as income. That's a big write-off for people. And you think about this, a lot of people don't think about it, but you might want to advance that gift. You can gift up to $100,000 and not paying tax on it. If you were given $20,000 a year, give 5 years worth of gifting right now and be done with that for 5 years. And that could help you out tax-wise. Because, again, if the change of election changes leadership, the taxes go up, these are things that can help you with your deductions.
Yeah. And they did stop the RMD for 2020. You don't have to take that this year. But just because they did away with that doesn't mean you have to stop your qualified charitable distributions.
That's right.
You can still give to your church or any kind of charitable organization.
Yeah. You can't give the donor advised funds. It's got to go directly to an organization.
But just because you don't take your RMD doesn't mean that you have to stop your QCDs. So.
Right. That's number 3. Number 4 is just gifting. There's a lot of wealth out there, and the estate tax laws are going to. They could change from where they are right now. They're $11,580,000 that you can pass on per person. So husband and wife can pass on $23,160,000. So that's a lot. So if you have a large estate, it's a wonderful time to think about maybe gifting part of that estate now to your children rather than waiting. Because it's going to go back to $5 million per person. So it's go back to from $23 million down to $10 million. So for most of us, that's not a big, that's nothing to worry about. But for those that do have some wealth, that's a huge opportunity to start planning. And that brings in, all those things we talked about. The Vanderbilts don't make the mistake that they did by not setting the guidelines and, laying out that money so it lasts for generations to come, And
that is such a huge number. A lot of the times we don't think about it. But where we're at, a lot of people own land. So if you do own land, it's not that difficult to get that high of a value for gifting. It can sneak up on you in a hurry.
Very fast.
Yeah. So there's 3 types of gifting. You can gift $15,000 per person or to anyone you want to every year. You can have unlimited gifts for direct payments to tuition or medical expenses. So you've got kids, grandkids in school. And then you've got your estate planning gift that you can give, your lifetime exclusion, which is a good thing. And the last thing is just update your estate plan. There's so much that needs to be done with that. So it can save you a lot of taxes.
All right, gentlemen. Fantastic. Always a pleasure having you in.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and KWBY, and again on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock on KATX and KWBY for more Life Planning 101.
Advisory services offered through Smart Money Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Calton & Associates Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Kennedy Financial Services Incorporated is an independent of Calton & Associates Incorporated and Smart Money Group, LLC.